I applied to over 300 jobs before I was able to find my current role as a project manager. And in those time, I was thinking about what could I have done differently in order to find a job a lot quicker. Hi, my name is Miracle, and I'm currently a project manager at my Fortune 500 tech company. And before this, I was laid off for approximately 6 months. And in that time, I had to apply to like around 300 jobs just to get to this role. But in that time, I've realized there's a lot of things that I could have done a lot better. Already, I know it's going to be a juicy topic because I made several videos about my unemployment journey and have documented basically me going to career fairs, having different interview roles, and even talking about what jobs I was actually applying to the entire time. So if you watch any of those videos, you really won't be missing too much. But in the 6 months and looking back on it, I realized there are things I never would have thought to watch out for until I went through it. But I am here to talk about it with you guys now that I had time to think about it and really formulate what I would have done differently during those 6 months. I would have chosen the right job boards before I applied. You guys probably don't know a lot of job boards because before I was applying for this job, it was LinkedIn and Indeed. Those were the two major job boards I looked at. There's Monster.com, there's ZipRecruiter, there's a lot of other copycats out there. They're all copying the same jobs anyway. Obviously, LinkedIn is not the best place. There's too many scam jobs, too many ghost jobs, too many not so great jobs. And the same can be said for Indeed, but probably on a higher scale. So the biggest thing I had to really realize was finding a place that didn't have all those issues while also taking my time to like tailor my resume and actually turn it in. Because at the beginning, I was applying for jobs for 4 hours every other day just to find the right ones for me. So that meant that I couldn't waste time looking on like 12 different job boards to find one single place. So because I lived in Chicago, Illinois, the places I look for jobs, and I probably talked about this like a million times, is Hiring Cafe. They are more or less startup company that made a job board that scrapes from like the literal website of companies' career site versus scraping from like other job boards. And I looked at Illinois WorkNet. They essentially have all the jobs that are ever going to be placed within Illinois as a whole, and you can filter it. Because I live in Chicago, I can use that. I don't know what site you can use in your own state, but hopefully something similar. So that's my number one, and that is like super critical because how else are you going to apply for jobs if you're applying in places that are typically not right for you? But let's go on to number two, having my time respected. And I know applying for jobs during the time of unemployment feels like you have 40 hours to literally do everything under the sun in terms of looking for a new job. Of course, it's unpaid, but you have all that time, which unfortunately means that if you have an interview and the interviewer decides that they forgot when you're supposed to have an interview with them, or they feel the need to reschedule you for some reason, you're facing the brunt of all of that rescheduling, meaning you're watching out to make sure they come on time, you're making sure they're even there. And it just starts to realize, at least for me, that some jobs just don't care about you unless they like really think you're worth it, or they're desperate enough to just look for people. And then they're realizing we need to like buckle down because people do not want to be in interviews that waste their time while they're actively looking for other roles. If you're 10 minutes late, that's 10 minutes I could be spending looking for a different job, going to a career fair, fixing my resume. That's 10 minutes of me doing my life versus 10 minutes of me waiting for a 30-minute interview. At that point, you're just not worth it because at the end of the day, what the recruiter does and what they do in the interview showcases that for the company. So if your interviewer is a bad timekeeper or they're rescheduling you too many times and it's not a good reason, that just reflects the company. Number three, we have to avoid AI interviews at all costs. And I do mean this with my entire heart. I don't know if I made a video about this, but like a few months ago, I had like 2 interviews for like the same exact company that only wanted me to interview with an AI agent. I don't know if the company was an AI company or if they use AI in terms of their workspace, but the interview themselves were being done by an AI agent, meaning they asked you questions, they recorded it, and they supposedly are sending it off to someone to review it. Now, for me, bad experience, right? Because each interview was an hour and the interview was supposed to be 30 to 45 minutes in total. But if you're answering the question concisely or too quickly, the AI agent somehow comes with more questions until you fill out the entire hour when it was supposed to be half of that, okay? And if the AI breaks down, which it did break down for me, you're sitting on the screen for several minutes thinking, should you just cancel the interview? Will they even save? Will they even send? What is the protocol when the AI does not work anymore and is functioning incorrectly? And I never even heard back from the interview, like ever. It was turned in and I never heard anything back. They basically ghosted me. I sent a follow-up, but they didn't care to like look into it. And I essentially wasted 2 hours of my life on that day doing an interview for a company that didn't care to know who I was as a person and just wanted me to be in a circus for them. Because at the end of the day, doing AI interviews might sound really great for a company that might be screening for hundreds of different applicants. In the same breath, we're also the ones having to apply to like at least hundreds of jobs just to get to the right one. And if we can talk to a human being, then what makes sense for us to be talking to someone later on to say, you didn't do as good because of XYZ? Long story short, it is a big waste of time to work with AI interviews. They don't get you anywhere. I only had bad experience and I work in tech, so it's very prevalent here. So I would just say, if you ever see it, if they say they're going to give it to you, I just wouldn't waste my time because I don't really think they're going to do better in the future. But that's just me, I guess. Number 4, when going to career fairs, ask if they are hiring. This is a crazy thing that I had to write down just to tell you guys. But unfortunately, it's been the case in some career fairs that I've been to during the last 6 months, where they will go there just to have visibility for potential hires to see if they are existing in the workforce. Not to say they are hiring. I actually had this happen when I was working at my old tech company. We went to NSBE when they showed up to Chicago like a year ago, and we were not even hiring for like majority of the roles. We were hiring for like places that were not even in Chicago. And yet we had long lines of people out of college, new grads, whatever, being like, oh, you guys hiring? And we're like, go on our website, go on our website. We weren't even hiring for more than like 2 roles. So little story time. When I used to go to career fairs at my college, we used to have a lot of tech companies come in and they were never like the best. They're always like some small company that you really never heard about, but they're always like in a whole different state, Missouri, Mississippi, Miami, not Miami, but like Maine or something like that, different places of the country that's not even in Chicago, but they're too small to have been talked about, or they're just not like made enough in Chicago. And I'll always ask them, are you hiring in Chicago? Because why start a conversation? Why pretend you are interested in what they gotta say if you can't get anywhere? And they always just be like, no, we're not hiring in Chicago. We're hiring in these states, which are never your state. You came all the way to my school that's in Chicago and didn't even have Chicago roles. Insane. Even worse, because my school was like majority H-1B students. So a lot of people really needed that visa in order to work in these jobs. And a lot of companies that came were not even accepting kids who needed a visa. So it really was a big waste of time for most people, unless you were moving or you're really desperate to get a job. And I wasn't desperate enough to move to the middle of nowhere, Mississippi, for a job. And that's something I had to learn, because you think going to a career fair, everyone is hiring because why else are you at a career fair? But there's just some places where they just go for visibility to show they exist, to show you that they are, doing their due diligence and they have a budget for it. And it's just a waste of time for us, formerly me, not now me. But I would just say these are the main 4 things you really need to watch out for, because at the end of the day, this is your career future. This is your life. This is your way of getting another source of income. If it's your only one, then your only source of income. So we need to find ways to like use our time more wisely, because no one else can do it for us except for us. So hopefully this helped you guys out. These are just some things that I had to deal with the 6 months. Let me know if you want part 2. I'm sure I can figure out more things I dealt with. And you guys can put in the comments what you guys dealt with when you were unemployed, that you didn't think you have to go through, maybe because of AI, maybe because of career fairs, maybe because it's just interviews in general, and put it down in the comments. But thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe so you don't miss an update from moi, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.